All right. Hello, everyone. This is the post show where we go over everything that happened during our service and just try to have some good conversation about it all. So, to start things off, let's go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them how long you've been coming here to Connections.
I'm Zachary Kreger, and I've been here for 2.5 years.
I'm Matt Tate, and I've been here like 6 years.
I am Layla Wagner. I don't know how long I've been here. When did we build the new building?
Like 6 years ago.
Okay, 6 years.
Oh, nice. Well, and I'm Perry Hostetler, and I've been here for 3 years. Yes. No, I wasn't yesterday, but it was just recently.
Nice.
Just recently. Yeah,
Congratulations.
just had my 3-year anniversary here. So, yeah, been loving it here. So, what stood out to you guys in today's service message? What were the things that stood out to you most?
I'll start. I can tell they're thinking.
Yeah.
I always like circle or star something on my
Nice.
notes. So this whole series has been very convicting for me. All of them usually are, but when you were touching on the part about workaholics, I was like,
Yeah.
I wanted to hide, and I was like scrunching in my chair. That's me to a T, and I have very, very high responsibility. I do trust God, and I know He provides for me, but I just have this terrible tendency to think that I need to always have things, in control, and I just lose sight of it really quickly. So that was one of the things that stood out to me personally.
Layla, do you think for you it has less to do with maybe, because we didn't talk about this today, maybe less to do with trusting God and more to do with not trusting the people around you? Or is it something else?
It's me. It's not trusting that what I am providing is enough. And I have this habit of thinking about all the possible worst scenarios and trying to squash those scenarios. It's from a lot of things that have happened throughout my life. I have been in and out of counseling. I know what it is.
Gotcha.
So I will get to have a lot of negative self-talk, and
Sure.
I think that maybe I won't be performing enough. So I need to go above and beyond. And it's things I've done from a young age, even in high school and sports. I always wanted to at least 110, but even that, it was more like 150 at minimum, right? I always wanted to be the best. So
Wow.
it's a great question, but yeah, it's not others. It's myself.
We could do a whole nother message just all on that stuff, couldn't we? Man.
Yep.
Oh, how about you guys? Any further thoughts on that or something different?
Yeah, basically the same. I overwork myself where I get exhausted and I get sick. And then, it was funny, right before we walked in here, my wife and I were talking, I've been doing a lot. And, she's like, you just need to learn how to say no. I'm like, it's so hard. I'm used to, having to work, or do something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, typically I have this bad habit of only caring about the work that I care about. And if I don't really care about it, I'll give 40%,
Sure.
which has gotten me by so far. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think about work a lot, and it does kind of mean a lot to me because I think about the way my dad grew up and he was working in fields when he was 8.
Okay.
Just that wasn't legal, but he was doing it because he needed money.
Sure.
And then just progressed from there to where he is now, and I haven't done that same thing, and it eats at me a lot. I don't know. It's. I don't think I'm not a hard worker.
Yeah.
I just if I don't care about the work, I don't work hard, really.
Yeah.
Which is not great.
Sure. What do you think, based on either today's message or just in general? You probably already know the answer to this. What is the should be?
Right. So I'm trying to. So in my brain, everything that is not working towards the plan that I feel like God has set out in front of me. I was just working at a coffee shop. I did fine. I wasn't the best employee ever. I was runner up for employee of the month a couple times. I never got it.
Yeah.
But since I wasn't directly working towards the thing that I feel like I'm called and put on the earth to do. It feels
Yeah.
like a waste of time.
Sure.
Which is not true. I have to find peace in the mundane. What I want to do and what I feel called to do is would seem very, very impractical if I wasn't me. If I was looking at me, it would seem very impractical and stupid and childish. And how are you going to raise a family like that? I don't know. I'll figure it out when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I do know in my brain and value in my brain hard work. Just like trying to get better at being at peace, doing mundane things that aren't necessarily working 100% towards the goal, but they are still, because I still need to like glorify God in that. But yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't talk much in this message about like trying to find where you really fit, because there's an awkward stage of life too, and some people get stuck in this, but there's an awkward stage of life where you're doing things that you really don't want to do the rest of your life, but you're doing it so that it can get you to the goal
Right.
that you're trying to accomplish. I remember I mentioned my dad and uncle were builders, and that was the family business kind of. And so in high school, that's what I was learning to do, and I thought that's what I was going to be. And then I worked on like a roof or something during one winter, and I was like, this is awful. I don't want to do this with the rest of my life. Like this is terrible. And so I completely changed the course of things. But in the moment, it was my only source of income.
Right.
And I did have certain things I had to pay for as a high school student, and so, or that I wanted to pay for. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to do the best I can here. But man, the mundane, the things that don't really fit us, it can be hard to like push through some of those. Can anyone else relate to that or have an experience like that or an example of that?
I can. I was going to school for nursing, and
Oh, yeah.
I finally got into the nursing program at Western. And by the time I finally did that, I had worked as a nurse's aide for many years during that journey and that point in my life. I just knew in my heart that I didn't want to be a nurse. Like I love healthcare and I love, helping others, but I was so burnt out on it that I knew that I wasn't going to be happy long-term, emotionally and physically. Like it was a high burnout for me.
Yeah.
And so I stopped. Right. And it was so confusing. And it was also a moment of like easy for me to feel like I failed, like I wasted a certain amount of time of schooling and money. Right. And everything ended up working out. But
Sure.
when you were talking about, the job piece, I immediately was thinking about,
Oh, yeah.
it's easy.
It's interesting, but like sometimes you have to go through that stuff to realize, oh, wait a minute. This is not what I want. I don't even know why I'm here, but whatever it was, you have to experience it sometimes. And so I totally get that. We didn't talk about this at all in the message, but one of the things that I could have talked about was this thing called Working Genius. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's like a new personality profile thing, but it's all based on job performance. It's similar to what you guys do at your work with StrengthsFinder.
Yes.
But it's a lot more condensed. Like there's only 6 of them.
Nice.
And so, but the basic concept of both StrengthsFinder and Working Genius is if you are in a position that wants things out of you that you just don't naturally have, it's going to become a drain.
Yeah.
You're not going to be as successful. And over time, you're going to hate your life.
Yeah.
So although there are times where you just have to buckle down and do the things that you don't love, it is important for us to try to find those things that fit us well, too. So that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
I will say there is a good amount of hope in this thing that I'm pursuing. That's about all I can say. But like, so me working with customers all day, every day, that's not going to work. I'm going to say something rude or lose my job. I'm not that guy. I will never be customer service. Like that's not me.
Yeah.
It was so draining, and I did it for as long as I could.
Hey, sometimes you got to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it kind of ties into this next question. All right. To work hard, you can't procrastinate, chase fantasies, or just talk. Which of these things do you find yourself struggling with the most?
The talking for sure.
Yeah.
Like I and it's not even that like I'll talk about things and not know how to do them. I know how to do them, but I've been so drained and I have my own mental health struggles and life hasn't gone to plan. So like I just haven't done them. It's tough. But like, because I would probably call myself a pretty ambitious person.
Okay.
A lot more healthily now than I was, but
Sure.
it's still there. I want a better life for myself, basically. And a lot of it, I don't necessarily express all of it to like my peers and everything. A lot of it is just like I'm talking in my head about like, oh, this and this and this and this. But I do a lot of talking and not a lot of steps to get there.
Sure. So with that being a recognized struggle, what are the things that you have done or are trying to do to help you with that?
Yeah. So the job I was working, it was very hard to have a routine because like every day I'd work a different shift.
Sure.
But now that I'm out of that, and now that I've like slept for a week and I feel great, I'm gonna start putting in place a routine and just like writing things down to do every day, like just small things that do push me towards that goal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I'll get like caught up on like, oh, I need to do like these big things, and then I'll be there. But like the 1%, 2%, 5%, that stuff seems to matter a lot more a lot of times.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you guys have any other thoughts for Matt on just things that you guys have experienced in that same way that maybe could be helpful?
I think you're actually doing the right thing right now, is getting us that schedule and then find a job that will work with that schedule.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm proud of you by doing that.
Thank
Like, especially knowing that you don't want to do what you were doing.
Yeah.
And then you knew it was draining you. So, like, stopping before that, that's, like, a lot of people can't do that. So,
Yeah. And I've been praying a lot too, which helps a ton.
oh, yeah.
Just so much prayer has helped me a ton.
Good. Good. How about you guys? Which of these things do you struggle with most?
Me would be chase fantasies. Like, a long time ago when I graduated high school, I wanted to be a school teacher. And then I realized I didn't really want to deal with kids. And then I always wanted to do my own business too. And it was going to be like an indoor dirt bike track and like have a little cool shop in there where like if your bike broke, there's a shop in there too. But in my head, like that's what I wanted to do. But I knew in reality that's not going to happen because it was going to be so like, no, like I always thought, oh, no one's going to come here. Even though people like I knew talked about, they're like, oh, that'd be a good idea. But I was like, yeah, that's so far outreach. But now we have the Ziegler Motorsport here, and I'm like, hey, look at that. They basically took my idea. But their track's outdoors, but not mine was gonna be inside. But
Sure.
still, same thing. And I'm like, there goes that.
Yeah, man, it's such a hard thing, right? Because
Yeah.
we're constantly told to chase our dreams
Yeah.
and to go after them. And I even mentioned it in the message, like, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but there's a difference between chasing a dream and a fantasy.
Yeah.
What do you guys think causes that? Like, what is the difference? How do you recognize that?
I don't know how to
We're
answer
getting
this.
deep.
I need somebody to give me the answer, I think, because I don't know, like all of these things and, dreams and fantasies too, especially to answer your question, it's been hard for me to navigate. Like I always say, like, well, I just wish that God would have had, like, all of our bodies should have like a dashboard and a manual. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what's wrong. Like it could have been so easy. Like I have so many questions for him of like, why? Like,
Yeah.
so many things. But I know, but right when you're going through these moments of like, of trying to figure life out and trying to understand what God wants for you, it's just hard to navigate. But it always, like when I look back on things, when I, went, from one job to another, kind of trying to find my way, the path is interesting when you look back on it. But still in my present path, I find myself like questioning what is my ultimate purpose. And I'll go down the rabbit trail, and then I have Sundays like this where I hear the message and I'm like, does it really matter what I'm doing as much as what I'm doing? Like, obviously I need to be employed to make money, but my purpose is to be the light of God, right? And I get very like, not like brainwashed, but you know what I mean?
Sure.
I like lose track and I lose sight of really like my calling, all of our callings to be disciples of God, and right. So
Yeah.
it's hard to navigate that while trying to understand what's a dream, what's a fantasy, what's your, you know what I mean, what you should be doing day to day. So I don't know how to answer your question, but I've just basically told you it's hard.
Those are some really good thoughts. What about you guys? You guys have any thoughts or ideas?
I've thought about this a lot because, my path looks a lot like a fantasy. Like I want to be a musician and a producer and an audio engineer. Which if you asked a good amount of little kids, they'd say that too, one thing that really helped me was when I was 18, I moved to LA. I went to music school and I was able to get some affirmation from professors like, you can do this at a professional level. You've got the ability. God brought me home to tell me that I was not doing it for him. I was 100% doing it for me. And then I had to figure that part out, which has taken a long time.
Sure.
So I kind of had to let go of the fantasy of being like world famous rock star, but still I'm in music, and that's what I'm going to be at some point. No matter how long it takes and what I have to do to get there. Sure. The fantasy was, the famous thing. And then, it's just like you have to be really, really honest with yourself in assessing your abilities. And like, are you at the level of the people who are doing this and that get paid to do it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Zach?
To me, I don't know. For me, it's like basically the same thing, but like it's just hard because like you want to do this, but like in reality, it's hard because like financially and just in your mind, you're like, oh, like something tells you you can't do it. It's not be successful or anything. Just like the business idea. Yeah. It's like something pushes you away from it, and it's like, but who knows? It could have been successful, and it would have been worthwhile. But
I wish I could stay, but I got to run.
No worries, Matt. See you, buddy.
Yeah. Just.
Yep. Matt's going to go do some music things now. Yeah. But we, it is such a delicate balance. And I think that's one of the hardest things because you mentioned like, man, I wish God would just give us a manual. And he's given us the Bible, which is our manual. But it's not like the manual you're talking about, where it's like step 1, this, step 2, this, step 3, this. And it's so highly individualized and specific to us. And as a result, we end up with a lot of things like this, where it's like, okay, chase your dreams, but don't chase your fantasies. Like, whoa, like, how do I even wrestle with that? How do I do that? And I love what Matt said, though, that he's doing recently, where he's just kind of praying a lot more and seeking God. I think that's that part where it's like, lean not on your own understanding. Trust God. Let him guide you. And I do think that if we do that, if our priorities are correct in that way, he will make an impact on us to help us kind of either realize our dream or realize that it's a fantasy that shouldn't be pursued. Right. And I think we probably all three of us, it sounds like Matt's currently going through that process of trying to figure that out. But I think most of you probably out there as well. It'd be cool to hear you guys put on the comments like what you think and how you've experienced this as well. So we'd love to hear your thoughts too. But last question. God wants us to work hard with him. How does that fit in your life?
Currently, I am working for it because I'm the intern here, and like I actually have a real job and then this job, and I love, like, to be honest, I love this job, even though I'm not getting paid. I'm not, like, it's all volunteer right at the moment, but like knowing that it's for God, it's for the church, it's for everyone who is participating, even everyone on this streaming right now, like knowing that it feels amazing. Like it brings uplift to my life. And then when I go to my real job, I'm like, oh, so it's like, but I know like that it's working towards the future. Sure. So
real quick question for you.
Yeah.
Because you have this goal.
Yep.
You have this dream. We talked about going after dreams. You're like, man, I want to be in full-time ministry someday.
Yeah.
But you're not there yet.
Nope.
And you have this other job.
Yeah.
But you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Every time you go, how do you do that other job for God and with him, even though you're like, man, this isn't where I want to be all the time?
My goal is trying to bring someone, like I had like 2 days ago, a guy from my work, he actually came to our church And afterwards, I talked to him. I was like, "Hey, how did you like it?" And he was like, "It's pretty cool. Like, it's way different than the church I previous went to." And then we just had a big chat about it. And he's thinking about bringing his kids and his wife here. And like, I'm trying to step more to like trying to get more people to come over here.
Sure.
So
Okay. Yeah. The invite to church is a definite way that we can try to do that.
Yeah, and then we also have a like a pastor, because it's a Christian company. We have a pastor there too, and him and I talk all the time, giving us each other's ideas, and he gives me ideas for here. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, and then he does the same thing for the work at work.
Yeah.
Like right now, we're both of us at there are working on doing like a little devotional group, and then like a prayer group, and long time ago when it was like Christmas time, like we used to do like a nativity scene and a nativity movie and just more Christian like events going on, because right now they're starting to step away from that.
Okay.
But that's because there's a new owner. Like, it's still the same family, but the owner, the next generation, and
Gotcha.
they were stepping away from it, so we're trying to bring it back.
Sure.
That's neat.
What about you, Layla? Because you mentioned this at the beginning of
Yeah.
like this is part of the struggle.
Yeah, and I don't. I'm not gonna say how old I am, but I've been working for a while, and I know a lot of what we talked about has been like our jobs that we go to, but I'm a mom and I'm a wife, and I have responsibilities and very much two jobs and two different hats that I wear at home, and right now I'm just trying to keep God with me all the time when I start my day, throughout my day, when I end my day. And I talked about this in prior post shows. Discipline in that area isn't always great for me because I have this very high tendency to control. Again, I'm constantly working at it, and I am thankful for forgiveness and grace, and that I always have a reset button with God. But I don't know. Purpose and like what our individuals' purposes. I get very envious for those who clearly know what they want to do.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like know what it is I want to do as far as it pertains to work, but I think that that's because that is my purpose, and it gets
Sure.
really confusing for me. I don't think I am supposed to be identifying with work as much as I have been, or that I think I should be, because I serve at church. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. There's so much more to it. It's multifaceted, and it might not be just like one thing. So that's kind of the concept I've been trying to lean into.
And I don't know because I'm not at your workplace, but I've heard that you're very good at your job. So I've heard these things. I've heard really good things that you are very good at it. Obviously you can be good at something and it not be what God wants you to do in the long run, but at the same time, it could be, and you could be, as far as work goes, you could be doing exactly what you should be doing. But yeah, it is difficult to apply our faith to the workplace sometimes when it's not always welcomed. And I think that sometimes we build up those barriers on our own. Other times it's enforced upon us. But yeah, man, I just encourage you to just look for the opportunities that God gives you and take advantage of them. But it's not always easy. And I've been in that situation prior to being a pastor, where it was like, okay, I'm a teacher and these kids need Jesus, but I'm not supposed to tell them about Jesus. So how do I do this?
Right.
And so I get that conflict for sure. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we have so many different hats and we have different phases of our lives. And so constantly looking to Scripture to kind of give us guidance in how to apply that is huge. So again, would love to hear all your thoughts as well. Please put them in the comments. Would love to hear what you think. And also, if you have any questions about today's message or about anything at all for that part, please submit your questions on our website. There's a spot where you can submit questions anonymously. So you can do that. We don't see your names. Or if it's really something you want us to follow up with you about, you're going to want to fill out a connect card, which is just where it says connect with us. So there's 2 different resources there. They serve 2 different purposes. And whatever questions you ask, we will try to answer them as best we can when we can. And we do that in our midweek Q&A that you can check out right here on Facebook, YouTube, or it's available in podcast form on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and perhaps a couple other places too. So thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. Layla, Kreger, Matt, who's not here. Thank you guys for being a part of this. And we are so glad that you guys could help us out with it all.
Now I got this chair. I'm going to relax.
We will see you all again next week.